Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood, everybody. Now, here's an interesting thing to start this one off. There's a sign here. This field has been chemically treated. Please keep to the footpath and keep dogs on a lead. Well, that's a decent little warning, that is, isn't it? Here's the field in question, and the footpath runs all the way across it. You can just about see the line of it there, running down towards a railway station. And that railway station will form the last part of this episode. But first of all, we need to take a walk around the village, and what a village this is. This has got a lot more than I gave it credit for when I route planned it. Having just driven through it, there's plenty to capture on the camera, including this little beck, which is going to make several appearances. Welcome to the parish of Thur-gar-ton. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Thurgarton lies just to the south of the town of Southwell in Newark and Sherwood. Ideally located for commuters, Newark and Nottingham are easily reached from here. It's served by buses and Thurgarton railway station. According to the 2001 census, it had a population of 412, which increased to 440 at the 2011 census. I imagine its name is pronounced in many different ways. I've gone with Thurgarton, but this is Nottinghamshire, so Thur-gutton may well be heard here too. To the west of the village is a large mansion, which stands on the site of Thurgarton Priory. In 1853, it was the residence of Richard Milward Esq, who was lord of the manor. The priory was founded in the early 12th century by Ralph de Ayncourt for canons of the order of St Augustine. Demolished in the 18th century, the cellars are now all that remain. Because of this religious connection, Thurgarton is a lesser-known place of pilgrimage for Christians wishing to pay their respects to the 14th century Augustinian mystic Walter Hilton. Highly regarded in his lifetime as a spiritual guide, Hilton studied canon law at Cambridge, but after a period as a hermit, he joined the community of Augustinian canons here in about 1386. This one was pretty challenging for a number of reasons. Let's see what they were. Our route begins on Beck Street, and you don't need to be a genius to work out how it gets its name. This route will take us uphill at first before coming back down again, with some pretty good views of the local countryside on the way. Beck Street is described as a typical rural English village scene by Country Life magazine. Along it you can find one of the village's most impressive properties. This is the old rectory, and it was constructed in 1850. Before 1850, the villagers of Thurgarton were in the hands of Reverend J.T. Betcher of Southwell, who had been curate since 1799 and looked after the parishioners of Southwell and Thurgarton until he passed away in 1848. Thurgarton's history is ancient, with a rich heritage of historic sites and buildings. Almost the entire village is designated as a conservation area and includes at least 10 buildings which are listed, the most important being the Priory Church of St Peter. So here we've got a map which is going to be very helpful for you to understand where we are and where we're going. If I just step back a little bit, you can see that the black outline, that's the parish boundary. You can see it's quite a lengthy parish from north to south. Thurgarton itself is here, sort of in the middle. Down here there's some more of the lakes which we spoke about in the Bleasby episode, which is right next door. You've got the railway line which crosses it, and the station, I'll end up there later. I parked here, and that's the footpath across the chemically treated field. And all this is just an expanse of like fields and farmland, etc. Up here we've got the highest land in the parish at 105+ meters. Down there it's the lowest at 15 meters, well, between 15 and 20 meters. So it's kind of a gentle hill from south to north. Anyway, I'm here at this corner, and my route will take me up towards the cricket ground. There is the biggest thing of interest in this place, Thurgarton Priory. Don't know whether I'll be able to get any decent sort of footage of that, but I will try. And then I'll be coming down here, up this road, which will be a hill, and then down this footpath, which will take me across to this road here where the village hall is. And there's a footpath which runs sort of along here somewhere. It's not marked on this map, but it should be, and it brings me out there, back to where I started. So yeah, without further ado, let's go and do exactly that. Located in the centre of the village within the old pinfold is a 10-foot high memorial cross. This is made of white Portland stone and is set on a 3-stepped octagonal base. The memorial was restored and rededicated in 2010. Behind it is a small tablet which makes a mention of Thurgarton Airfield. Located to the northwest of the village, this was available to Royal Aircraft Factory FE-2B fighters of No. 38 Squadron as a home defence landing ground during World War I. The cross bears names from both World Wars. It was donated by Mrs. Upton of Thurgarton Priory in 1919 and bears 2 of her grandsons' names, along with all the other men from the village lost to war. All of this is sited next to the Acacia Hair Salon on the Hollows. This used to be tonic, beauty and holistic therapy. Other than this, Thurgarton has no shops, nor does it have a post office, but there is a standalone postbox outside. Okay, so we've reached the entrance of the cricket club, and this gate is locked, which is a little bit of a problem for me because my route was supposed to go over this field. I thought this was a public right of way, but obviously it's not. Doesn't matter because we can still go up here and get to where I need to go in a moment anyway. So this is Fiskerton and Thurgarton Cricket Club, established in 2017, so it's a fairly new cricket club, not been here very long. Here we are then at the Priory Church of St Peter. A Church of England church these days, this is a former house of black canons, named as such because they wore black cassocks, black capes and hoods. It was restored in 1853. Parish registers exist from 1721, but earlier records were lost in 1780. The church stands next to the site of the former Thurgarton Priory, which is now occupied by the mansion we mentioned earlier. The original building would have rivaled Southwell Minster in terms of size. Speaking of that though, the mansion house that replaced the priory was used for a time as the Bishop of Southwell's palace, whilst a new one was being built next to it. It's thought that a priory was built at Thurgarton for its location in 1119. It was in a sheltered valley and had a stream and natural spring very near. It also had a good supply of wood and stone for building. Well, there's a very tall ceiling here inside the church. It's certainly one of the most echoey I think I've ever been in. And it's just magnificent. It's just a building of grandeur, this. I don't know why I can't find a light switch. They're probably hidden away somewhere, but I haven't come across one. That's why I went to the chancel, just to shed some light on the situation, because otherwise it's really dark. There's not much on the walls here. Obviously in this aisle there's Nothing on this wall. Not a lot in the chancel. Most of the wall tablets seem to be above this door, but because it's so dark, I can't read what they say, and they're probably too high up anyway. So, yeah, there are some, but inaccessible, as it were. The Priory controlled large swathes of land in the area. Next week, we get to see a building which was linked to it via a tunnel. Stay tuned for that. Directly over the road from it, there's a small cemetery, and I had a quick look inside it. And now we return to the centre of the village, and this is Cornercroft, arguably the prettiest part of Thurgarton. It sits on the corner where Bleasby Road meets Nottingham Road, and it's an open green space with trees, benches, and a sign or two. The village sign, which proudly features in today's thumbnail, can be found here. This was, according to the plaque on its shaft, the final part of Thurgarton's Millennium celebrations. It was erected in 2002. Gorgeous sign, by the way. Cornercroft is also where you'll find the village's old red phone box, and this one is a well-stocked book exchange. Now, in terms of public transport, this area is also where you can find the local buses. Alright, let's check out bus information. Here in Thurgarton you have 3 services, the 26, the 26A and the N26. You can reach Southwell and Nottingham and a few other places too. Colwick, Carlton, Burton Joyce, Loudham, Gedling, Carlton, oh sorry, Carlton. So yeah, and that even gives prices on these as well. I'm hoping that's up to date. That's not too bad actually, to be fair. Anyway, the bus stop is right outside the pub. That's the Red Lion. The Red Lion was once a 16th century alehouse. It's now a fine country pub which changed hands in 2019 and underwent a full refurbishment. It still retains all its historic features and offers 4 separate dining and drinking areas. Now we climb the hill, and it wasn't as shallow as I first thought. On the way, we pass this building. Set back from Southwell Road, this is the vicarage. At the top of the hill is a footpath which will take us to Bleasby Road. It's downhill now, thankfully. All the steep hills are behind us. You do get some fabulous views of the Trent Valley along this path. You'll see those in a short while. Our next stop is the very popular Village Hall. And here it is. This terms itself as a blank canvas venue. That means when hired, it can be decorated in any theme. You can even get married here because it has its own license to hold wedding ceremonies as well as receptions. So let's see what's going on at the Village Hall then. There's a notice board here. What have we got? We've got a fitness class, hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, gardening club, dog training classes, yoga, dancing club, Bleasby bikers. There's all sorts. Oh, even an art exhibition. Oh, that's at Hoveringham, but even so. And this is what you need to do to hire the Village Hall. There's the information right there. Next we have the Methodist Church. There's been a Methodist presence in Thurgarton since 1833, and originally the congregation worshipped in a wooden building. That was replaced by the current chapel, which was opened in 1927. We're on the home stretch now. Running alongside the chapel is a footpath which will take us to Priory Park. To the left, as we make our way down it, is an orchard. I had to hold the camera high above my head to get this because it's behind a tall hedge. And that brings us to Priory Park. To the left is the field where we began, so it's time to get into the car and drive over to the station to check that out. Just before we do, I found an amusing image to do with the village's name. Thurgarton's name is derived from the Norse god Thor and literally means Thor's Garth settlement. Here's the man himself enjoying some light horticulture, courtesy of the Thurgarton History website. Okay, we've arrived at the station, and you need today's picture bit before we get into this. At the risk of sounding like a cut and paste job, in much the same way as Rolleston, Fiskerton and Bleasby, Thurgarton's railway station sits on the Nottingham to Lincoln line, opened by the Midland Railway in 1846. One thing I haven't said about the line in the previous 3 episodes is who engineered it. It was none other than George Stephenson. Unlike the other 3 stations, here we can get a really good look at the station buildings. They're designed in the neo-Tudor style, and like Bleasby, they were probably designed by Thomas Chambers Hine. Much of the original station decor remains, apart from the electric barriers at the crossing, which were added later. On the other side of the line, the road becomes Thurgarton Lane and runs to Hoveringham. On it, there's an industrial estate. This used to be Hoveringham Brickworks, and we'll talk more about that in a future episode. So I always like to catch a train going through if I can, but I think I've mistimed this because I've looked at the timetable and there's no trains due for a while, so yeah, we're not going to catch a train here today. Never mind, doesn't matter. That's been the parish of Thur-gar-ton. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Time for me to move on to my next one here in Newark and Sherwood. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I am out.